Brett with another weekly challenge, and here it is. Jesus Christ, the best excuse for a narrow-minded bigot to act like one. So how do you respond to this claim that Christians are narrow-minded bigots? Number one, you could say, oh yeah, well, you know what? You're so ugly and so is everyone in your gene pool. Okay, no, all right, don't do that. But what I want you to see is this challenge is no different than me saying something like that. Because this challenge is simply name-calling. This is what we call in logic an ad hominem. It's a logical fallacy. It's not a good way to argue. Notice the person hasn't said anything about your claim or your argument. Instead, they've said something about you. They are simply calling you a name. And we know that name-calling is not a legitimate way to argue for your position or to argue against someone else's position. So I think you can gently and graciously but firmly point this out to people. I don't get offended when people call me narrow-minded, but I don't let them off the hook. And I explain to them, hey, this is not a good way to argue for your position. And it's not a good way to show that my position is false. You can't just call names. Here's a second way you can respond. You can ask them a question. When someone says you're narrow-minded, simply ask them, well, what do you mean by narrow-minded? And they're probably going to say something like this. Well, you think you're right and everyone else is wrong. You're narrow-minded. So then I have a follow-up question. Do you think you're right? Well, yeah. I mean, of course they think they're right, right? That's why they're correcting you. Okay, so you think you're right. So then I have a second question for them. Oh, so are you saying that I'm wrong then? Well, of course they're saying you're wrong. They're correcting you, right? So they're going to say, yeah, I think you're wrong. Then I'm going to point out to them that they think I'm wrong. And I may ask them another question. So do you think you're right? Oh, yeah, of course. Okay, so you think you're right and I'm wrong. So by your own definition, you are narrow-minded too. So we're both narrow-minded. Great, let's keep this conversation going. Right, and what you see is the self-contradictory nature of their definition of narrow-mindedness. If narrow-minded means that you think you're right and everyone else is wrong, well, then we're all narrow-minded, right? We all have a point of view that we think is right, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that doesn't make you narrow-minded. And here's the third response. Truth, by definition, is narrow. So when I say 2 + 2 = 4, that's narrow. When I claim that Jesus is the only way to God, yeah, that's narrow. When you say that Jesus is not the only way to God, okay, that's narrow as well. Every view is narrow in that it eliminates other options. Truth is narrow by definition. And so we want to help people see that, look, our claim is a truth claim. And so, yeah, it's going to be narrow, but they have truth claims as well. And when they say that our truth claims are wrong and their truth claims are right, those are narrow claims as well. That doesn't make you a narrow-minded person, and it's illegitimate to dismiss someone simply by calling them a name. And so we've answered another challenge.